All right, I think we lucked out with running out of time yesterday because I looked into that opening riff more and I didn't quite have it yesterday. So now that's more accurate to what the song is. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is definitely what's going on there. It all definitely makes more sense as to how to play it. Um, and fairly in key for a good chunk of stuff. But let's see. Let's actually just play it first. I'm gonna go slow here because I haven't practiced this very well or enough to whip through it. But kind of slow. We got. I think I was pretty close to the speed, but yeah. Um. So what do we got going on here? Like looking at shapes I'm familiar with. Just kind of recognizing things. So like right there, you're basically just playing like a big E5 power chord because you have an E, a B, an E, and a B. And then that note right there, it's not in key anymore. You end up hitting like the flattened fifth. You could also say a sharp 4. But it actually turns into, if you like look at all those notes at the same time, that's basically an E suspended sharp 4. And then we go into this part. Right there, you have a G major 7 over E without the 5. And then we go into an E5 again. And then basically we have this B minor no 5, A minor no 5, G major no 5, F sharp minor no 5. So again, basically an E suspended sharp 4, G major 7 no 5 over E, E5 again, B5 or B minor no 5, A minor no 5, G major no 5, F sharp minor no 5. And then back to the E sus sharp 4, the G major 7 no 5 over E, and the E5 again, and then we just got this little run to finish it off. So they're not holding the chords like I was doing there. That was just to kind of demonstrate stuff. So it's kind of show like, hey, these things that we've talked about, we're seeing that stuff. All right, so E sus sharp 4. Well, where does that actually occur? And that would be an E, typically E Lydian. But, looking at the full, I'll say, spectrum of notes here, like this is very much based in the key of E minor. So you could ask, like, well, how does that note work there? Well, it sounds cool, so that's basically why. Sometimes you can like do stuff where you just do those kinds of things because like you could see where that could be another place to do it. really kind of throw that in all over the place, where you just flat the 5, which is, a flat 5 and a sharp 4 is the same interval. So you can really use it wherever you want. It's kind of like you step out of key for just a little bit to add some tension and come right back in. So you could, maybe that's what they were doing on that spot, but that's not terribly uncommon. But then again, I can't really think of a lot of times I see that happen, but I just kind of recognize it, and I know that you can do that with chord stuff. And then this part, that's all in key of E minor there. And that's like, taking some of that 7th chord stuff, and you can do things with that, like kind of like what they're doing there. Basically, you got this G major with no 5 being used, because you got the G note for the roots, the B note there as the 3rd, then it hits another G right there, but pedaling off of that open E. So you can do things like that, where you just kind of pedal off the E and then play little arpeggio stuff that would be in key. So again, like arpeggiating those 7 no 5 shapes that we've gone over right there. So that's ways you can use some of that minor, or the 7 no 5 stuff. And then like that second bar, it's got that just power chord again, just E5. You got E, E again, B, and then E a 3rd time. So you got an E played at 3 different octaves in that one. And then just going down, basically arpeggiating these minor and major diads. So like visualizing stuff in key, you can make up your own stuff doing the same kind of thing. Oops. So I'm just like visualizing these diads going down right now, and just doing my own little riff with it. Anyway, now I'm just starting to fiddle around, and that's like kind of how you write stuff and put things together. You just gotta just try things. You learn what another band has done, and then you try and do your own little thing with it. I mean, basically everybody's ripping each other off anyway. That's really what it comes down to is how you're going to rip off your favorite stuff. You know, take what you learn, and then eventually you just kind of spit out your own version of it. That's really what happens. Yeah, and then the last part there, where you have another different thing. Now this right here, that's actually part of an E Hungarian minor scale. So it's similar to harmonic minor, but I like to call it like the harmonic minor of harmonic minors. Like you made it even more harmonic minory. So like your E minor scale, you have, I'm going to start it over here. You know, your E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. So for the harmonic minor, you take the 7th note in your minor scale, raise it up a half step. So basically you're taking your the minor 7th interval of the Aeolian mode and turning it into a major 7th interval, which would make it harmonic minor. Hungarian minor takes the 4th notes and raises that up a half step. So you have your sharp 4. Keep that in mind, sharp 4. And those 4 notes, or you know, what the 4 intervals that make E sus sharp 4, E, in this case A sharp and B, E, A sharp, and B. Right there. There's your E sus sharp 4. So this basically starts in E Hungarian minor, and then the rest of it's basically just E natural minor. So E Hungarian minor, you got your E, F sharp, G, A sharp, B, C, D sharp. So yeah, you can do some really cool stuff with Hungarian minor. And actually, I believe, yes, you are on Patreon. So that Metal Modes course, where I have most of it done, there is a whole section on there going over Hungarian minor, and it has some riffs in A Hungarian minor as well as E Hungarian minor to kind of demonstrate the sound and what it's all about. But yeah, let's see. Get some more notes up here. Oh goodness, like kind of discussing like what's what. Let's change. Let me just do it like this. All right. Can't see me anymore. All right. So yeah, basically we had like the E sus sharp 4 is kind of. Oops, I'm hitting the wrong buttons here. E sus sharp 4 for like the. We're looking at this group of notes here. Let me zoom in more. Yeah. And then here is basically, you know, this whole group right there. I'm looking at it as like a G major 7, no 5 over E. And then this group of notes right here, we have just the E5 chord. And then starting here, we have those descending dyads happening. So here we got the B minor, no 5. This is your A minor, no 5. The G, no 5. And F sharp minor, no 5. And then once again, we have the E sus sharp 4, the G major 7, no 5, over E. And actually, hold on a second. I could almost just call it, you know what? We can also just call it an E minor add 9. You know, I'm going to change it to that. Because E is the 1, G is your flat third, B is the 5, and then, you know, that's just the G once again, the B once again, and then here, that's an F sharp, which would be the add 9. So this way we can kind of simplify the chord name. So E minor add 9. That's what we're going to go with. Much easier chord name. But you see, I just saw the whole like the 10, 9, 11 part, and I just gravitated right towards the major 7 no 5 shape. So basically, there's just two ways of looking at the same thing. But now that I looked at this more, I was realizing, like, you know, it kind of makes more sense just to simplify the chord name and call it E minor add 9, and that accounts for all the different notes in that little group right there. Okay, so next we got the E5 here. And once that last part comes in, basically we have no chord. So sometimes you'll see things in tabs that just have NC for no chord. So that's what I'm looking at, like chord theory wise, in like how the riff could be viewed. Let's zoom out a bit and start adding some stuff here. So let's see. I put it here. So remember, E minor equals E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, and D. And then the new thing, E Hungarian minor, is E, F sharp, G, A sharp, B, C, and D sharp. So, save that. And now we can start looking at, like, well, what are all these notes in here? So, you got your E, that's the B, that's E again, that's B again, E, and then that is the A sharp, and then E, G, oops, got the wrong button, that is the B notes, that is G, that's B, this is F sharp, and then we got E, E, B, E, B, D, A, C, G, B, F sharp, and A. And then, it's just like before, actually, because it's already filled in, I'm just going to copy and paste that. There. Same thing here, because all that's the same. Minus the B minor, no 5. But okay, I'll just do this. And then remove that. All right. So entering the notes here, you got your E, D sharp, E, A sharp, B, G, F sharp, and E. Okay. So now we got all these notes filled in. And of course, if you knew how to read standard notation, then you can just look at that and know what it is. I am terrible at reading standard notation, which is one reason I don't teach how to read just regular old treble clef. And I'm a big believer that for us guitar players, we want to have the rhythm portion of the notes plus the tab so we know where to put our fingers. Like, I always thought it was weird how the just standard notation just seemed like there's too much guessing involved with like where you'd have to put your fingers for everything, you know. Anyway, so there's the notes all laid out. Now, like comparing up here, so like, you know, E, B, E, the E's and B's are in both E minor and Hungarian minor. A sharp, that is only in Hungarian minor. G is in both E minor and Hungarian minor. And then F sharp, that is in both E minor and Hungarian minor. So like this whole bar right now, you could say is just E Hungarian minor because all the notes being used fit the Hungarian minor. Now continuing forward, so you got more E's and B's and okay, now we have a D. So here we are in just E minor, E natural minor, because we have a D now, which is in E minor, not Hungarian minor. And we also have an A natural, which is an E minor, not Hungarian minor. So we've gone from E Hungarian minor to E minor, back to E Hungarian minor. And then when we look at all the notes here, so we know E's and B's are in both. Well, D sharp, that's in Hungarian minor. A sharp, Hungarian minor. So, and then the rest of that is in both minor and Hungarian minor. So really, most of this riff is in E Hungarian minor. This part is in E natural minor. So that's one thing you can do with these scales and really like modes is go between some of these things. Like, you know, you can write something that is in just a, like your E natural minor. Just like go between the two. So yeah, we can start working with, you know, some Hungarian minor stuff. But there we go, some theory behind what's happening in Souls of Black, at least the intro part. But there's a lot more to the song to go, so we'll end up covering the rest and talk about what's happening there. So yeah, E Hungarian minor. And yeah, that Metal Modes course on Patreon that has Hungarian minor examples. All right, there we go. Any questions, please let me know, and I will see you again next week.